The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Hey, 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 happy Friday.
Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Good evening, all.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Tesla dumped 75% of its Bitcoin at one of the worst times, losing out on billions of dollars, as predicted here. Germany's Bitcoin sale now seen as a billion-dollar error, as predicted here. Germany's 2024 liquidation of over 50,000 Bitcoins for $3.3 billion could have been $6.6 billion 1 year later. Dan Eve, what do you think of the terrible sells by Tesla and Germany, which were both predicted here live on the show to be mistakes?
Well, I mean, with Germany's, it seems also bittersweet because they even do it on the 4th of July as well, and they pretty much market dumped it, which was quite sad. But they
They
are,
made the whole market crash and then they laughed at us. They said,
yeah,
ha ha ha, look how smart we are. We made the whole market crash. And everyone said, this isn't going to work out well for you guys.
yeah, and it didn't last long. Look who's laughing now. But at least they have 0.0069 Bitcoin, which has been donated to them, which is a sad state of affairs, right? Imagine being sat on could have been sat on $6 billion as well worth of Bitcoin, especially in a time when I think I read that Venezuela, was it Venezuela, or one of the South American countries that they held their Bitcoin, and it's now worth about three-quarters of their like national debt or something. I think it was. I mean, but anyway, it was one of the countries. But with Tesla, they also. I'm surprised. Obviously, they sold it, and then I what's they could have kept that and had been what 3 or 4 billion up or something. But they also say that they actually were going to start accepting Bitcoin again once the people proved that mining was more environmentally friendly, which we seem to be over that hurdle now. So we haven't heard much from that camp. They haven't even said whether they'll be accepting Doge either, which is strange considering all the Doge stuff that was happening with Elon Musk recently. But yeah, it would be good if they can turn around and kind of look at the environmental reports from mining now, which pretty much are ubiquitously saying that Bitcoin mining is good for the environment because of the usage of wasted renewables, especially as I think he created an article or used reference an article today saying that solar energy produces so much energy that all other energy combined is a rounding error, and I had to look into that, and it's really interesting actually. It produces, the sun produces so much energy that in the lifetime of Earth, that nuclear and everything is just literally such a small amount if we can harness that much power. But obviously there's other things like cleaning solar panels, and you can't fit them everywhere, and it doesn't run at night time, so batteries are going to be required massively. So obviously he's going to be shooting that. But yeah, Bitcoin should be accepted at Tesla again now. I think it's time.
Sadly, in our country, they've canceled all of the subsidies for solar and wind power, despite the fact that it's going to take at least 5 to 10 years to ramp up a new nuclear power plant or whatever they're going to do to replace it.
Mm.
I'm not sure if Tesla is even into environmentalism anymore. They're very much going their own way, and electric cars aren't cool anymore. Everything's changed. But again, we predicted live on the show that these were both mistakes, and it's just tragic. But it's also this is going to repeat itself over and over again as Texas launches their own Bitcoin reserve. All these other places launch their reserves, and unless they're able to borrow against this, and I know everyone, the new rage is don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. I don't think there's a lender out there that would have taken Germany's $3.3 billion bet or whatever Tesla had. It's just too large. But this is going to happen over and over again. These companies, these states, they can never sell. And if they do sell, 6 months to 2 years later, there's going to be one of these articles about how much they lost by selling. Ben Ark, what do you think about Tesla and Germany and their bad decisions?
Yeah, with Tesla, I remember we covered it on the show, and it was very much an example of Elon Musk proving that he cosplays how much he knows about a subject. So he was all over the social media, pretending that he was this like well-informed Bitcoiner. And then when they started accepting him for Tesla, quite shortly afterwards, he was like, "Oh, Bitcoin's bad for the environment." And it's like, well, surely you would have known this already if you were an actual Bitcoiner and you like just a little bit about mining. Um, and at the time as well, there was good evidence, as there is now, there's more good evidence that renewables obviously make a lot of sense for Bitcoin mining, and there are a lot of mines running using renewables and is incentivizing renewables as well. Something I was always very critical of, but I had to put that to one side when I saw a whole bunch of evidence of actually happening, which is great. That's what we want. And then, piggybacking off what Dan said, yeah, I mean, solar's incredible. Just take a magnifying glass on a sunny day and set something on fire. Like, there's so much energy just falling on top of us all the time. It's pretty insane that we feel like we have to dig out, fossilized dinosaurs and put that in our cars to make us move forward and whatever else. Um, so yeah, so renewables are the way forward. Energy isn't going to be too much of an issue in the future, and so it's moving towards is it a type one civilization where we actually harness the energy of the sun as opposed to
Kardashev,
harvesting. Hmm?
the type one Kardashev, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Kardashev
Yeah,
scale. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And like we need to consume a lot of energy too. If we've got all this AI shit happening and we've got Bitcoin mines and whatever else, like the more energy we consume, the more we develop the more humanity develops. So that's what it seems to be. So we got to be better at harnessing energy, and there's loads of energy just everywhere. Look at the sea, look at the sun, and we just need to harness it. And Bitcoin mining makes a lot of sense with that. But anyway, on the Tesla front, um, is an example of Elon not knowing much about Bitcoin. And then what confuses me is he was obviously heavily involved in the Trump administration, and he was part of the inner circle. Like, surely he must have known what was happening with Bitcoin and Bitcoin regulations. And then I would have thought that maybe it was just too much of a step because I think a lot of people who buy Teslas, they're obviously kind of environmentally aware, and a lot of them have a opinion on Bitcoin that it does consume too much energy. So maybe he didn't want to rock the boat even more with his consumer base. But I think that boat has been rocked, and it's not only like, I mean, I kind of feel sorry for him almost because it, a few years ago, like all the talent in the world would love to go work. All the best engineers would love to go work for a company like Tesla. Whereas now, I think that sentiment's probably less. So it's just kind of more bad news for Tesla, and Elon Musk is a businessman, who's apparently informed about Bitcoin to sell off all that Bitcoin. I'm sure his shareholders are like, well, are saying, well, you were acted like you were a Bitcoin, so why did you sell off the Bitcoin? And then when it comes to countries selling Bitcoin, like everyone regrets selling any Bitcoin ever. That's why you should try and do it as little as possible. But I suppose a country probably isn't as inclined to regret as much as not just an individual human is. So it might take them a little bit more for the price to go up a little bit more for them to not be able to rationalize it as just, well, it could have gone up or it could have gone down, and actually be when they see, a regret when they see these countries with big national debt or whatever being able to pay off their debt from via the Bitcoin treasuries. Um, but I mean, ultimately, it all plays into the never sell your Bitcoin ideology, which, if you think about the compounded effect, I mean, this is why the Bitcoin price has gone up as much as it has. Is that, and like we've spoken about this on the show, is every time you have a cycle, you increase that bedrock of people holding Bitcoin, uh, and they understand that they should try and sell the Bitcoin as little as possible, and the diamond hand thing, whatever else, and that just compounds. So like, this is what makes the price go catastrophic, and not catastrophic, interstellar, and you get to the $600 billion per Bitcoin is from that. Is from people not selling their Bitcoin, and they're just supply and demand. There's not that much Bitcoin on the market. Um, but interesting stories to see countries and big uh, companies starting to have to live with the regret of selling their Bitcoin holdings.
It's almost like us, right, Ben? They have that personal regret. Everyone has that story. One time I sold my Bitcoin, and now Germany has a $3 billion loss on their story. And that's going to get worse and worse and worse as the days go by. With Elon Musk, though, it's really strange. He seems incapable of research. incapable of learning or understanding anything. Like you said, Ben, he was a big Bitcoiner, even a Dogecoiner, a supporter. His company should have kept accepting it for their cars. They could have held it. His company could have held the Bitcoin they purchased. Seems obvious if you know anything. Also, like Ben said, being on the inside of the Trump administration, seeing the success that David Bailey and others have had in changing the laws to improve the situation for Bitcoin and not to get back in, not to say we should rebuy, we made a mistake, we should accept it, we made a mistake. And then to compound that, the entire Trump event for Elon seems confusing now. He's obviously publicly broken with him. He's claiming to start a third party to unseat the MAGA that he helped create with his hundreds of $1 million of contributions, as well as purchasing Twitter and changing it to a right-wing website. And then there's, of course, Elon accusing Trump publicly of being in the Epstein files, which is great and everything. But if you knew that, why are you working with him? It seems like he's a bad guy. If you know that, if he's making it up, why would you make something up like about that about the president? Say it publicly. Very strange actions by Elon across the board. I question if he's a good businessman, if he's a good researcher. Certainly, you don't have to know everything to be smart, but he just doesn't look very smart. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I mean,
Ben.
even so for your shareholders and for the board of directors in Tesla, they're going to be like, well, why are you falling out with the president of the United
Yeah.
States? Like, leave, but then just don't fall out with him. Just don't go on Twitter and start accusing him of being in the apps. Just be quiet because
He
you're messing
gave
up.
him he gave him a golden key. He he,
Yeah.
he left on seemingly good terms. The Doge thing, cutting all of the everything, didn't seem to work out. Didn't save any money. But they were at least trying publicly to make peace. I agree, Ben. He should have just said nothing. He's gained nothing by attacking Trump, by creating this third party, by accusing him of being in the Epstein files, so on and so forth. Dan, what do you think about Elon?
Yeah, I think that he's still got a lot to gain from it as well, right? Because Tesla's obviously an American-based company, and aren't capital gains for Bitcoin gains now not taxable, right? So that's they're exempt from tax. So is that right? The laws changed for that, or has that not happened
I
yet?
don't think that's changed yet, Dan. That sounds fantastic. But
Oh,
I
okay,
know
okay.
in Germany, if you hold it for a couple of years, you don't have to pay taxes on it. But in the United States, to my knowledge, you
Oh,
still pay
okay, yeah,
taxes.
it might have just been rumor, but yeah, it does. I think that it may have sounded like. I mean, my take on them selling the Bitcoin back then was that perhaps the shareholders of Tesla wouldn't have been so knowledgeable on Bitcoin and would have seen the generalized FUD that you'd see in the mainstream articles. Whereas obviously, as kind of not insiders, but people in the industry would have been reading stuff like the CoinShares reports and stuff like that, which has very detailed and mining analysis. And so from the shareholders' perspective, you probably got a lot of pressure from them to dump the Bitcoin because Tesla was seen as an environmentally friendly company. That a lot of people bought Teslas because they were being environmentally friendly, and then it was like an oxymoron to have this environmentally friendly company then having Bitcoin, which is not environmentally friendly. If that's a weird analogy to use, but but the other strange thing is that well, not strange thing, but the worrying thing is that there was a report saying that out of the UK from this side of the pond that Rachel Reeves was considering selling our Bitcoin. That's and I think there's quite a lot, but there's another twist to that, which is that a lot of it was actually seized from a Chinese pyramid scheme, and now China's after that Bitcoin being returned to itself. So it's a lot more complicated than just selling the Bitcoin. But Dominic Frisby did a quite a good write up on it, and says and begged her, please don't sell the Bitcoin, as any Bitcoiner in the UK would be doing.
Well, it's interesting because they're trying to do that here in the United States as well, Dan, where Bitcoin has been seized from criminal activity. And normally, if it's like a boat or a Picasso or whatever, we sell it at auction, we take the money, we give it back to the victims, right? As best you can. For some reason though, they say this Bitcoin's in our system now, so the government should seize it, and that's where we should get our Bitcoin reserve rather than appropriating money through Congress, passing bills, creating laws, actually buying Bitcoin with printed money or printing more money to buy that Bitcoin, which we do predict they'll do in the future. But right now, it's all about trying to seize this criminal property, and it's not theirs. It's not the government's. It belongs to the victims, I think, is the traditional take on that.
Just while we are at it though, I don't know if you've seen it, but I watched about 5 minutes before falling asleep. But the new South Park is incredible. It's really quite
Maybe we
funny.
should, well, maybe we'll cover it more at the end of the show, but yeah, you've got to watch the whole thing, Dan, not just 5 minutes. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I got 5 minutes
But
in. It's
yeah, South
brilliant.
Park was awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
And
what
they're
happens?
doing
What happens? And you can't wait to the end of the show.
it.
That's
And
good.
very briefly, they parody Trump directly. They have his talking head.
Oh,
It
brilliant.
looks just like him.
Yeah.
The largest thing I would say without spoiling it is he's kind of like Saddam Hussein,
Yeah.
and he's in bed with Satan.
Oh, come on, Trump.
So it's a radical episode of South Park. The entire internet's been talking about it. That's all they'll talk about. But
Yeah.
we can talk more at the end of the show. But let's move on to the next issue, issue two, very much related to the first issue. Public companies bought more Bitcoin than ETFs did for the third quarter in a row. As we've predicted on this show, there's no reason to have a company anymore. There's no reason to make widgets. If this lasts, and I believe they'll have to make it illegal if they want to have traditional companies, not just Bitcoin holding companies, there's no reason to make anything. If you look at MicroStrategy, they don't really make anything. They just hold Bitcoin and make tons of money. And as you can see here from this article, public companies are following the MicroStrategy strategy. And I assume if they go further along this line, they'll be shutting down their assembly lines and whatever, because why would you invest in that when you could just invest in Bitcoin? Ben, Ark, what do you think about these public companies buying even more than the ETFs?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like two topics. There's ETFs versus public treasury companies like Strategy. And I honestly don't really understand. Maybe it's the gains. It's a bit more of a speculation of investing or getting access to Bitcoin via Strategy as opposed to an ETF because there is more risk there than there would be with an ETF because they obviously leverage Bitcoin and do whatever they can to buy more Bitcoin. But I suppose maybe it's just the short-term gains of it all. But my real concern is that the thing created post 2008, which was essentially a book balancing issue. The thing which was created, not as a result, but partly, it was good timing, could ultimately be the thing which crashes the markets in that you have all this just empty value out there when you've got these companies which purport to have a treasury and they don't actually have the Bitcoin which they say they have and they're over leveraged and blah, blah, blah. Then you end up with the exact same scenarios you had in 2008. And I do think that regulators are going to be aware of this, that there is a systemic risk. And I think that we're just sort of in this brief period where you have our legacy financial system, and then suddenly you have this new opt-out thing, this Bitcoin thing, which is a real spanner in the works. And with the two systems coexisting as they are currently, like you can have a treasury company like Strategy without doing proof of reserves. But actually there is a systemic risk there. And that eventually, I mean, a Strategy is a big clear net company. And it's not a cypherpunk dream or whatever. They're just buying Bitcoin within the traditional business public company context. So I feel like it's a short-term exploit which is available to clever rich people who can take advantage of it. I don't think it's going to be there forever because of the risk it could have with all the markets. And when it comes to just general companies, like, trying to build a Bitcoin treasury, even though they also, I don't know, make other stuff, one of the best ways for them to build that treasury is to accept Bitcoin payments. So we've seen a huge uptick in interest in bits as a payments technology for accepting Bitcoin payments because there just now is this kind of, we're on the brink of a kind of Bitcoin payments revolution because there's all these big companies who just want to accept Bitcoin payments as a way of building a Bitcoin treasury. So I don't necessarily think that side of it's a bad thing, but obviously the side in which you are then able to leverage those Bitcoin holdings and gamble with them could be a bit of an issue because, as we know, the Bitcoin price does go up and then it does go down.
And that's always been the fear, Ben, fear that these companies would rehypothecate or lend out or print more Bitcoin than they have. And that could be happening at some of these companies. And like you said, Bitcoin's the most transparent asset. Everything Satoshi was focused on was the transparency of it, that you could prove what you have. But MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor went out there and said, apparently, according to their analysis, it's a security risk to prove your reserves. He also said that it wouldn't mean anything because he's backed by loans. Tomorrow he could sell them all to pay the loan. You would find out, minutes after or something. But yeah, we're back in the financial crisis, right? Where they're putting potentially bad loans in boxes marked good, and you as the consumer have no idea if you're buying good loans or bad loans, good company or bad company. They could prove it, but they're not. So let's go to Dan Eve, the crypto raptor. What do you think about public companies buying more than ETFs?
Well, it does seem a bit like the 2017 every company putting blockchain in its name, and like the pivotal one there was like Kodak that tried to save itself, and we all know how that kind of went. And now there's a British company called SmarterWeb that announced it, so they seem to be like, this thing, we're buying Bitcoin, put it on the balance sheet. There's a bunch of Japanese ones. There's like Quantum Solutions and Kitabo.
At
They
Meta Planet
and Meta
apparently has
Planet,
an
yeah.
incredible amount of Bitcoin, and their stock went up even more than their Bitcoin gains. So
Yeah,
now there's this idea that maybe you can make more money speculating on these stock companies rather than just holding the traditional Bitcoin.
yeah. Especially if you can if you can go like leverage long on some of these crazy little companies announcing they're going to be buying some Bitcoin. But then I'd like to see the stats, and haven't found any yet. I was just trying to search now, but the stats of companies buying without Sailor's strategy numbers included, because they're obviously such a huge buyer in the game. So without strategy buying, are the inflows still bigger than ETFs? I'd like to see those numbers. But because obviously Sailor's still buying pretty darn hard, and he was buying the top. So there was like the big dump today, right? It's meant to be, is it Galaxy BTC? There was 40,000 or 30,000 that was meant to have been sold, like on the open market, which seems rather like odd because Galaxy Digital were pretty hardcore in terms of Bitcoin. I don't know if that's all of their holdings or not, but that seems to be why we sort of dumped back down to about 115. But it's strange even saying that, dump back down to 115,000. It's absolutely nuts. Even just thinking, just saying that sentence, dumping down to $115,000.
There's also been some rumblings recently about a company, I forget the name, Dan, maybe Bit Digital, but they had a Bitcoin treasury and they switched to a quote Ethereum treasury. Other people are saying that perhaps Ethereum jumps and jumps and jumps and maybe even outdoes Bitcoin this cycle. I think Mike Novogratz was saying that as well. So very interesting stuff happening out there. I think maybe 2, 3 weeks ago, that company was openly mocked for the Ethereum strategy. Everything seems to have changed in the last week with the altcoin resurgence. There's also, for the record, an NFT resurgence looked like it's happening. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, NFTs are all up, and I'm pretty sure we've been predicting it here the whole time. So hopefully you listened.
Well,
Like
maybe that's it,
stats.
right? The Galaxy Digital are dumping some of their Bitcoin because they think that Ethereum's going to follow in the trail now and has got some bigger gains to make in the short term. Considering it's still not even at all time high yet. Like, if you got to feel for Ethereum holders, it still hasn't hit like $4,900 yet.
It's about stacks Novogratz, shillings bags. Back,
Every time.
back with a vengeance. There's another level of finance which exists, and it's outside of the news cycle. And I've had a couple of conversations with some people like who are involved in that world over the past few weeks. And the public companies buying Bitcoin is far, yeah, it's far more advanced, and there's far much going on, far more going on than just the strategies out there. And I'm not sure that I could talk about it on the show, but when I had some of those conversations, I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll see whether it pops up in the news cycle.
Well, I certainly don't have any insider information, but just from what I've gathered reading the news, it seems like more of these family trusts and these incredibly rich people are investing now in Bitcoin and Ethereum. The companies, the trusts, they're all in it. We still don't hear from retail. I'm not getting a lot of phone calls from my friends back home. I got maybe one when we broke 100. And of course, the guy's like, "Oh, I wish I bought at 100, blah, 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 like you told me to." And I'm like, "I wish you did too, man. I wish you all did. I don't know why they didn't." I told everybody I know. Then I got on the internet and I made 600 shows in 2 years. I was like, "This is the thing. Bitcoin is the thing." They didn't listen. I'm in Paris now. So it goes.
Well,
But
the
let's
the
move on.
only
Go
the
ahead,
only
Ben.
time I sat down everyone I know and I said, now is the time to buy Bitcoin. Now look at me. I've never said this before. This is the moment you put as much money as you can into Bitcoin. And it was when, you remember when the ETF news broke when we first got the ETF? I was like, we've been speaking about this for years. This is when Wall Street comes in. This is the end, well, it's not the end of the retail investor, but this is when the retail investor becomes more insignificant than just big financial interests. This is the time. No one, no one bought. And I was just like, now I can turn around to them and say, look, that was the perfect call right there.
I feel like again, Ben, like I should have had a family meeting and I should have sat everybody down, but I got burned the last time telling them to buy the Facebook IPO and it went out and it went down. And then I told them the right thing. I said, you should buy more. Like I don't have any money. I'm gonna hold my 10 Facebook shares or whatever, but you people have money. Like buy more of this Facebook thing. I showed them a soda can, like every soda can has a Facebook and a Twitter logo. You ever notice that? Like that's a valuable thing. Like they don't have to do that. They chose to do that. Like it's a big thing. No one listens. No one listens. And so yeah, it was hard to tell them about Bitcoin, but I still have these Facebook messages I go back to. I don't want to, but I tell my cousin, I'm like, hey, 100's a good deal. And then like it must have been 3 weeks later, I'm like, I know it went to 300, but 300 is still a really good deal. Like maybe just get one, you know? And no, not a one. They can't get off zero. It's so hard, and I understand it too. I had a hard time getting into Bitcoin at first too. It's just got to get off zero. I mean, even at 0.0001 or zero zero, just give it a try, figure it out. They weren't ready. Maybe now, maybe next year.
That is a
But let's
real,
move on.
that is a, that, I mean, you shouldn't just say something that profound and then skip on to the next subject. I think get off zero is some of the best advice. Just get off zero. Yeah, when it comes to converting no coiners, get off zero. It's good t-shirt.
Well, a long time ago, I wanted to put $1,000 in, and $1,000 was a lot of money, and I worked hard to make it, and I didn't know what to do or how to save it. I probably would have lost it in some exchange. But $10 would have been fine. $100 would have been fine. Getting a start, and that would have been crazy early. But instead, I put zero. For even me, even I make that mistake too. But let's move on to the exit question. Predict the price of Bitcoin competing against the online Magic 8 Ball, which I have brought with me. Dan E, will it be higher or lower this time next week?
Oh, higher. Just a small dip. This is.
Small dip. Ben Ark, continuing the positivity, higher or lower?
High, high, high. Like this is, it's bonkers. It's going to go so high.
It does seem to me like we only went down so we could go back up. So it's one of those, the market is working little correction things. But let's ask the Magic 8 Ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Er, It is decidedly so. It is decidedly so. The online 8 Ball, perhaps more positive than the offline version. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,459 videos, including new short videos, which we've been told they're making an effect. Maybe not the effect that we want, but they're making an effect. Victoria, our friend on the show here, was in a video where she talked about Hex, and I think she actually said good things about it, although she's not a fan. And the Hex people found it, and now they're filling up her Twitter replies trying to teach her about the power of hex. So I don't know if that's a good thing for shorts or not, but the idea that we could make small clips of our show and have other people watch them, it seems like it worked in that case. So hi to all the hex people if you're joining us today. Moving on to issue 3, Bitcoin to Ethereum. NBA icon Scottie Pippen reveals 4 top crypto predictions for 2026. It's hard to take this one seriously at all. Scottie Pippen, of course, famous for the Chicago Bulls, and Michael Jordan playing incredible basketball, being a good person, taking care of his mother, stuff like that, is now telling everyone on Twitter that the market is going up. Pippen predicts a rally in Bitcoin to 233, Ethereum to 10K, XRP to $10 each, and Solana to hit $1,000. He also thinks that Elon Musk's humanoid robots are actually going to come out and deliver you meals. Um, it's hard to take this. He's obviously a basketball player, certainly a smart guy, but I don't really believe him as a crypto expert. But here he is cosplaying as one. Dan, Eve, what do you think about Scottie Pippen's predictions? And will he be right?
Well, it's funny how they're these predictions they're so much more like reasonable like now well not reasonable but like before it was we thought when Bitcoin hit a low of like in say 2015 right before that halving it was $150 or something and everyone was like it might make it to 300 400 and then it hit $1,000 and then in 2017 it was like around the March ETF hype that got rejected and it's like, wow, it's about $1,000. It may make it to about 4 or 5,000. Then it hit 19,000. So it's always like the estimates are getting a lot more conservative as time goes on. And Ethereum only needs to just over triple to get, or just under triple to get to 10,000. XRP, I don't care about, but and Solana, I'm not sure about the price, but Solana is definitely like the meme coin chain at the moment, isn't it? It's like where it's like the shitcoin casino for the current meme coin markets. But
I think Solana just got back to $200, so that would
wow,
be a 5x gain. Ripple was around $3, so that would be about a 3x gain to $10. It's pretty large gains he's predicting.
oh man, I remember having because of the Ripple army in 2017. I remember having some on Poloniex, and when it was like fractions of a cent, and I sold it all off because I was just like, oh, the shill army's too bad, and that obviously was a bad decision, but I still hate XRP because of that. But it didn't I remember was it Sailor that was next to Scottie Pippen? I haven't heard much about him, but Sailor was next to him when he said that he'd met Satoshi or something. And then alluded to saying he had actually met Satoshi in his dreams and was talking to it like, and Sailor's face was just like, what the, what the hell? But he seems like, he's like a cool character, right? At the end of the day, he's a big character in terms of basketball, and he's shilling Bitcoin to his masses. That's the main thing, right? He may be shilling other coins as well, but I like it how these articles still refer to Bitcoin as like the main cryptocurrency or the largest cryptocurrency, right? Instead of like that's their descriptor for Bitcoin rather than like the hardest money or something more cool like than that. But yeah, it is good that we've got these big stars that are taking pushing Bitcoin. And who was the other guy? There's another guy that's I can't remember his name now, but he's another. I think he's NFL player, and he's taken one of the first to get his salary in Bitcoin, or a portion of his salary in Bitcoin. So it's good that these stars are pushing Bitcoin to the masses and getting these different areas involved in the idea of stacking Bitcoin, whether it's through salary or just from buying. Russell O'King, I think that's his name. Russell, yeah, yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah, I also forget the name of the football player, but he's been crowing like crazy that it was a great idea to take, I think, maybe 1 year of his salary in Bitcoin. And he was saying stuff like, I wish I took the whole thing. I wish I took the signing bonus. Saylor told me to put it all into Bitcoin. And boy, was he right. So again, Saylor is making waves through his personal connections. As far as Scottie Pippen, number two to Michael Jordan. I think I watched a short documentary about him or something. Seems like he's an incredible guy. Took care of his mother, came from a large family, put everybody through college kind of stuff. Just, wonderful, success story. Worked very hard. Maybe even as good a player as Michael Jordan, just the team of them together. But I find it hard to take him as a crypto expert. It's interesting to see once again that the media is not looking to say real crypto experts like perhaps Andreas Antonopoulos or someone like that. They're pulling up basketball stars and I don't know reality TV stars and whoever else will talk to them. They have no interest in what we have made or what others have made. But still, at least it's positive news for Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else he predicted. Ben Ark, what do you think about Scottie Pippen, a famous basketball player, now a crypto expert?
I think he's spot on. I think if you go back 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago on this show, I said 240K because I predicted the pump of the 20K pump when we first went to 20K, and all you need to do is take the previous pump high and the low, superimpose that over the Bitcoin price, and then just marry it up, scale it up, and then look at where the price hits. And that's how. And I remember predicting it on Reddit back in the day, and I said, look, Bitcoin's going to go to 20K and I just superimposed the previous pump, and it went to 20K. And then I did the exact same thing a couple of years ago, and 240K is the number. And it's like you just got to wait for that parabolic run to happen, whatever kicks it off. We're in it now, and 240K is the number. And I think because people know that 240K is the number, 233, maybe that's a better call because like people will start dumping when it gets towards 240. So I think it's actually a very, I mean, if that's the way in which he did, I mean, I'm always surprised when you have all these like traders or whatever and people speculating on price or talking about where the price is going to go that so few people just do that. You just take the previous high, previous low, superimpose it, marry it up, and then it's like, okay, 240K. There you go, cool. So yeah, I think it's spot on. Well done.
What's always worked for me, Ben,
And
and I
we
think
said it
it's
in the
really
show.
simplistic, but
Sorry, we said it in the show. Multiple times 240K. We said like multiple times over the past few years.
I've always just drawn a line between all the tops. If you look at the top line and you think that it's going to continue up, and every once in a while it does this huge up move and it lines right up with that top line. And it's not financial advice or anything. It's a triangle analysis like everyone else, but it seems fine. And the other thing I always think about is once Bitcoin is like worth, say, 100K, it's kind of always worth 100K. There's always a chance it would go back to 100K, and we're kind of seeing that now with Ethereum. Everyone had lots of fun dumping on them on Twitter. The Ethereum investors crying. It's kind of back to where it was, which is a really strong position for a stock. Like it was 3,800 years ago, it was 3,800 last week or something. It's quite possible it goes up more. Not as financial advice and all those things, and everyone hates altcoins and whatever, but it does seem, according to the analysis, that we're going to have a huge boom in altcoins and that the cycle is going to repeat. People make money in Bitcoin, they put it in altcoins, they make money in altcoins. And I think as a third market, they're going to put it in NFTs. We've seen a lot of sales out of Curio cards recently. Obviously, I'm interested. But somebody swept the floor of CryptoPunks. They bought at 12 million a piece, they bought 65 CryptoPunks. They put a lot of money in it. Somebody out, and they're starting to talk about NFT holding companies and NFT ETF holding companies and things like this. So the financial wizards out there are finding new ways to get huge piles of money and to invest them into crypto and alts and NFTs and Bitcoin and all these things. So I think a rising tide raises all boats, right? So it's looking good. Let's move on to issue 4. Satoshi Nakamoto's net worth. Bitcoin's mysterious founder becomes the 12th richest person in the world. Satoshi Nakamoto, pictured here as a hooded statue in Budapest, Hungary, is said to have $128 billion, surpassing Michael Dell from famous Dell computer fame at $124.8 billion. They say that Satoshi has an estimated 1 million Bitcoin still hidden behind a shroud, unknown if he has control of that money or not. But they say he's the 12th richest in the world. Ben Ark, what do you think about the incredible success of Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, they, space alien may be?
I mean, how did they get there? Diamond hands, the ultimate diamond hands, just refusing to sell no matter what. Peter Todd, he's done well for himself, hasn't he? Our boy. Have to hit him up for some money. Um, no, I was amazed that there were like people with more than 124 billion dollars out there in the world. There was 12 of them, I suppose, or 11 of them who had more money. But yeah, those coins are lost unless, I mean, crikey, whoever Satoshi may be, unless they're just the most disciplined person who's ever existed, those coins must be lost. But yeah, it is. Ultimately, when Bitcoin gets to a certain like when enough of the world's economy is based on Bitcoin, it's going to be a bit of an issue that Satoshi has so many coins, and I'm not sure how that's going to be reconciled because people will be worried that Satoshi could dump the market and destroy the world's economy. But that's for future consensus or discussions around consensus. But yeah, he's the greatest diamond hander in history.
Ben, what do you think about the controversy of quantum computing? If a new kind of computing comes out and it can crack the Bitcoin algorithm, should the Satoshi coins be protected?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. It will happen. I think we've got probably l longer to worry about that than people realize because quantum computers aren't that far along. But yeah, it's a very good question. What do you do with Satoshi's coins? Do you protect them? Do you just like dilute them, destroy them, or yeah, like what are the yeah, I don't know what the answer is there. I do know that there's been some great Bitcoiners who moved out of Bitcoin to work on quantum computers.
The main idea seems to be freezing them in place so that they can't move and they can't affect the market. If the coins were hacked, if the coins were hacked and then sold, disaster for the market, as Dan mentioned earlier. Galaxy Digital sold, I forget, not that many Bitcoin. If somebody sold the Satoshi Bitcoin, a huge market crash, uncertainty, chaos. A lot of reason to freeze them, even though it goes against kind of everything Satoshi was about controlling your own money.
There is a good argument for like a dust depletion mechanism where, because I mean, like we haven't got really got any blockchains which just rely entirely upon fees. So rather than a minor reward, so there is the idea that perhaps the Satoshi coins get used as a minor reward or chipped away at, and then it's like if Satoshi is still out there and has the keys, then he can stop that from happening. There is kind of that spin on it, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept that eventually we'll get to because it does improve security of the network. That we'll get to a point where we just have like a steady rate of minor reward on top of the fees. I don't know. As I said, it's for future consensus and people to worry about.
There's been other ideas as well on other chains like Bitcoin Cash or BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, that the coin should be taken and returned to the rightful Satoshi, which of course they meant Craig Wright, which would be great for him. I mean, maybe we could make Bitcoin Thomas Hunt's vision and
Hold on,
return
I was
all
going to say
the Bitcoins to me.
I'm
Yeah.
Satoshi. I invented Bitcoin right there. I've got the keys. They're in a time
I'll
lock,
take
whatever.
10%. I'll take 10%. You don't even have to give them all to me. I'll take 10%. But Dan, Eve, what do you think about Satoshi Nakamoto breaking into the top 12 of world's wealthiest people?
Maybe the one avenue that we haven't really explored enough is that Satoshi is so freaking embarrassed that he lost his keys that like he can't possibly come forward because they'll think, how did this idiot invent Bitcoin and then lose his private keys or something like that. It may have been that actually he didn't actually have that much faith and it was all a bit of a front. I don't know. There's lots of possibilities, right? Obviously, the most obvious one is that to have diamond hands like that, you're already what's the word, contributing carbon to the soil, right? And you've passed away. That's why you couldn't have possibly sold your coins. But the quantum thing is interesting because I mean, I think the last estimates I saw was like 30 or 40 years that we'll get like quantum computing is going to reach that level at least, because it's going to need hundreds of thousands of qubits or something in order to be able to break Bitcoin, addresses. And we're on it. I think atom computing holds the record at 1,180. But what if, right? And did they actually mix in with that how fast AI is kind of is kind of how close we are to AGI if we haven't already got there. If the AGI helps build faster quantum computers much faster than initially expected, um, but most Bitcoiners, or at least the clever ones that I follow, seem to be pretty confident that Bitcoin's not going to be cracked for a very long time. But there's always there's always a curveball, right, that comes along. There could be a breakthrough that some AI accidentally stumbles upon, like some sort of increase in qubits and error corrections that suddenly makes it all a lot faster, and it kind of goes exponential, right? But yeah, it's an interesting concept about taking Satoshi's coins, but yeah, do you know who proposed that or came up with that, Ben? Was it? Anyone in
I can't
particular?
remember. I just remember reading it somewhere.
Yeah,
There was some like interesting alternative ways of using Satoshi's coins where they wouldn't be like destroyed completely, like they would
yeah.
just sort of be chipped away at. And I suppose as the price goes up, then you're kind of locking in the price too as to what the Bitcoin's probably worth. Yeah, but I'm sure there'll be some great proposals. I do know that the to be quantum proof and changing the crypto of Bitcoin, um, that it requires a hard fork, and that's probably the period in which it's like, okay, we have to become quantum proof. Plus, what we're going to do about Satoshi's coins? Because if we're going to do anything, now's the time.
Yeah. I suppose that
Uh,
they'll reach a time of like how old he could possibly be, right? And if we haven't cracked kind of aging, there would be a point where, if the coins aren't used after, assuming that he was at least 20 years old when he invented Bitcoin, it would have to be, 2098 or something. I don't know. More than that, obviously, it's 2009, right? So, yeah, like, we'd have to be very late in the 2000s in order to be able to think, right, well, Satoshi's probably gone by now. But by that time, we're going to have bionic bodies, right? We're going to have like we're going to have limb replacements and all sorts of shit. That Brian Johnston, who's like doing crazy sperm experiments, he's going to make us live longer.
Maybe so, but like Ben said, many people have been after these treasury coins. They've done the rewards. Things like Dash Coin had a treasury model. They paid people to support Dash. Zcash had the developer funding model, paying people to support it. They've wanted to bring this to Bitcoin for a long time, but people have resisted. It's clearly Satoshi's property. If they, she, he, it, space alien has the coins or has the keys, so it's a very interesting story. And I don't think it's going to be the last time that we talk about it. But let's move on. We have a couple more issues, just really short stuff, keeping up with the news. According to El Salvador's government, finance chiefs talking to the IMF, they have not bought Bitcoin since February, contradicting the Bukele administration. It was quite shocking when Bukele came out, said they made a deal with the IMF to get their loans back, but against that deal, he was just going to keep buying Bitcoin. Now they say that they aren't buying it. And we'd also like to cover, like Dan said, Galaxy Digital allegedly sells off 30,000 Bitcoin overnight, sending the price below 115,000. So really quick, Ben, what do you think? El Salvador maybe not buying, like they've been saying publicly. And what about this sudden market sell by Galaxy Digital?
I mean, the El Salvador thing looked like a bit of a fiddle to me because further down in the article, it says
Let's go
about
to Ben
how,
Ark.
hello, am I here?
Oh
He's
yeah,
for
Steve. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the Bukele one was interesting because they so apparently stopped buying Bitcoin, but then they were just bringing in the Bitcoin from other wallets which were held within government. So it kind of feels like a bit of a fiddle. So you want to get the money from the IMF, you want to continue to buy Bitcoin. So you get these different arms of government to buy Bitcoin, and then in a way which is like less obvious, or maybe, or whatever. Um, and then you just continue to, as long as you got one Bitcoin going in every month, everyone's going to be happy. And I guess there is all this MS13. They probably had some Bitcoin wallets which they're able to chip into. But I mean, he's got to do whatever's best for his country. And if that is getting this IMF loan, I mean, maybe he's doing the ultimate strategy. He's getting the IMF loan, buying Bitcoin, and it's getting whatever money he can, buying Bitcoin. But I mean, El Salvador has done really well for itself over the past couple of years since they started accumulating Bitcoin. So it's a bit of a success story. As long as the coins, you know, as we always said, don't end up um, in someone's briefcase in a Trezor hopping on a plane, which could still happen. I hope it doesn't. And then on the Galaxy thing, like I think like everyone's got a sell point. And then some of these like old school world wallets, you know, they want to be in the 3 comma club or whatever. They're like, well, I'll sell it when it's worth $10 billion, or the 4 comma club. No, 3 comma club, but 10x 3 comma club. I don't know. Like normal people are like, oh, when I can buy a house, I'll sell some Bitcoin. And then people who've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, they're like, oh, okay, when I can buy, a ginormous yacht and whatever, or I can be in the 3 comma club, then I'll sell my Bitcoin. So we always have this sell pressure of these like old school hodlers, but I mean like that just becomes less. You just have less of them over time, of course. Right? There's only so many people who've got 80,000 coins in a wallet, like an OG wallet, which they can dump. And that's again great for the price because the price once it buffers that out and the selling pressure, then the price goes nuts. 600 billion a coin.
I'm not sure if they're going to join the 3 comma club, Ben, or the 4 comma club. I think they want quite a lot these days. But it is a huge risk to continue buying Bitcoin, to say you're buying Bitcoin, and to risk these loans that they've just gotten back. So I think it's very shocking behavior by the Bukele administration. But again, I'm not surprised. Remember the previous story we covered on the show that he said that he had, thwarted the gangs and put them in prison. It seems as though, according to the articles, he made deals with the gang leaders and paid them with United States money, which is another problem because the United States money is not supposed to go to gang members. So that story is still developing. And again, Ben, we're very prescient here. There's a possibility all of that Bitcoin leaves the country in a suitcase. Once again, you're damned if you sell it, like Germany. You're better off if you hold it forever. But like Satoshi, you've got to keep those keys. And we don't know what's going to happen in El Salvador. We hope for the best for the people. Dan, Eve, what do you think about El Salvador and the Galaxy Digital sale?
So with El Salvador, right? It seems like even Max Kaiser's saying they're buying more, right, on a daily, almost daily basis, or at least weekly basis. And so a bunch of other people are reporting on it. So yeah, maybe they are just like maybe this is just the last stand against the IMF, right? And they like took the money, they took the loan, and they're like, screw it, we're never going to need a loan again. Like who gives a crap if we lie about it? What are they going to What are you going to do, IMF? Like we're sat on billions of dollars of Bitcoin. What, you want your money back? Yeah, you can wait. Like you know. So I think it's a nice like little like cocky last stand, especially how like arrogant the IMF were, and the other organizations like the Bank of International Settlements and stuff like dissing like El Salvador for their Bitcoin strategy, and it's completely blown up in their faces now. So maybe this is the last kind of middle finger up, like we're going to take your money, but we're going to buy it anyway. And what can they do about it? Like they can't confiscate their Bitcoin, can they? Like because then I think they'll ruin their reputation even more because they're already wrong about Bitcoin going up. And with Galaxy Digital, it seems like that amount's grown. There's lots of other people now reporting that it's gone to 70,000 Bitcoin. So so that might be why I think the article you shared was 30,000, and I'd heard it at 40,000. But so that sounds like there's potentially an additional that people are adding those together, and they're saying 70,000 Bitcoin. Some people now saying that have gone Bitcoin. There was Bitcoin Munger that reported on that, and
Oh,
some
we
people.
do have this report here from the BTC therapist on Twitter for what it's worth, and they say 30,000. But you're right, Dan, it could very much be more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a few people saying it. So whether that's just the numbers that are getting mixed up, but it would explain why everyone was saying, well, it's only 30,000 Bitcoin, and sorry, 30,000 Bitcoin, and the price only dumped to 115, but it could have been that the actual amount was a lot larger, and maybe yeah, I mean, there's quite a few new people sort of saying it. So whether that it's just regurgitating the same incorrect stat, but the fact is that we're not through this bull run yet, right? We've still got a long way to go. Maybe they're getting cold feet, they've hit their targets as you've said, but or maybe they're following that strategy, right, of Bitcoin pumps, then because Ethereum hasn't pumped that much, it then pumps into Ethereum, and then when Ethereum pumps, then they put it into the altcoins, and then when the altcoins pump, they put it into the NFTs, and it's now like a quad cycle of that cascading money, taking profits and putting it into stuff that's got more of a run ahead of it potentially.
I
Not
reckon it's
This is
less
not financial advice.
I reckon it's less calculated. I reckon some miner from because it's 2011, isn't it? The wallets they didn't buy it in 2011 because who would spend like 160K on Bitcoin in 2011? So they probably mined it. They probably lost the keys. They probably regretted losing the keys, and they're like, "Oh fuck Bitcoin." And then it got to a certain price where they're like, "Right, I'm literally gonna dig up everything and I'm going to find that old computer with the keys on." And then they found the old computer with the keys on and they were like, right, dump, dump, dump. I'm a billionaire. Dump, dump, dump.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
imagine being that person? I bet that's the story behind it.
Yeah, you want to cash in and be like, I don't want to screw up again. Just get rid of it, please.
And of course, ironically, selling it at any time seems to be a mistake. Although it would be nice to be a billionaire. Can't argue with that. That would be an incredibly gangster move, though, Dan, if they take the IMF loans, they keep buying Bitcoin anyway, and just give the IMF the finger. We might see a sequel to that classic book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That would be neat to see. And you are very much right. We should all remember that the IMF warned El Salvador that they were out of control with this Bitcoin thing and they were going to lose all their money. And remember, during the dip, they were underwater and everyone was writing, El Salvador lost all their money, MicroStrategy lost all their money, and pointing the finger at us Bitcoiners, it's all our fault. And the whole time we're saying, just hodl that, just hold that. And it turns out MicroStrategy and El Salvador, as far as we can tell from the outside, did just that. They held their money and they ignored this predatory loan company.
It'll be like when Pixar bought out Disney. Like they'll take the IMF money, buy Bitcoin, they'll wait a few years, and then they'll buy the IMF.
That would be
Disney buying Pixar was
backable.
a genius move. They would have
Yeah.
been a disaster now if they hadn't.
So it
No,
sounds like
Pixar buying Disney.
So Bitcoin news comment that say it sounds like there was 80,000 of this old school Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's 80,000 2011 wallet.
Yeah, and now they've got 10,000 more to go that Galaxy is still holding from it. So does the 70K does seem to be holding up. But maybe that the 40K was from a short while ago rather than just today. I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, I think we've reached the end of the show, so we're going to go to predictions or story of the week. Still a good time to give us a thumbs up down below, add a comment. I know we're on at a different time today. I'm traveling in Europe, so it just works better to do it a few hours earlier here. Thanks to Dan and Ben for making it, and I hope everyone's watching it later on the replay and you're giving the thumbs up in the comments. And we miss you guys in the chat. We hope to be back in the normal time zone in a couple weeks, but we'll be here again 2 hours early next week. But Dan, Eve, predictions, story of the week. What's going on?
I'm just gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. I predict that Bitfest.uk, which is still currently being organised, is going to be really good. That's this November 21st to 23rd in Manchester, and it's in the Pendulum Hotel, which is the same hotel as CoinFest has been in since 2017, and it was, I think, last CoinFest was in 2022. Yeah, so if you're anywhere in the UK around end of November 21st to 23rd, get your tickets for Bitfest, because I think a bunch of us will be there, and it's going to be really cool. Some good speakers there too.
It's going to be a great conference, Dan, and we can announce here that Thomas Hunt, Mad Bitcoins, will be emceeing the conference. You can come hear
Okay.
me talk, and hopefully we'll have a live stream or record it for later or something so you guys can watch it on the YouTube. But check out Bitfest at bitfest.uk, and it's going to be a great conference. We hope to see you guys there. It's going to be a little cold though, so I'm going to bring my leather jacket that I got in a thrift store in Germany. It's very warm. I hope you guys have warm clothes too. I'm gonna bring all the long underwear I bought in Scotland too. Everything, all the warmth. Ben Ark, what do you think? Story of the week, prediction? Go ahead.
November in Manchester is not cold. It's like anything pre-December is okay. It's like post-December in the UK sucks, but pre-December is still warm. Like November's still nice. So
I'm getting on a plane the next day. I'm like, I'm there and I'm gone. That's how
with
it's
your
gonna be. You're gonna
with your
there'll be
flu,
like a puff of smoke. Where'd Mad
yeah,
Bitcoins go? He's gone.
you'd be sneezing all the way home, get everyone else sick.
I'll be
Um,
chilling, frizzed.
Bitfest's going to be the best because I mean it's organized by a good friend of ours who's like probably the ultimate Bitcoin conferencer, insider, and knows everyone, and it's got some great names coming. And yeah, Bitfest is going to be absolutely outstanding. So anyone in the UK, anyone in Europe, go to Bitfest.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to have great workshops. It's going to have a great vibe. I think it's going to be the best conference ever created. Just because of the people involved and the people who are building the conference they just know what they're doing.
Look at this, Ben. They're having day one, Gloucestershire. They're going to
Yeah,
have Gloucestershire, a one-day Gloucester conflict conference focused on exploring the power of decentralized communication, privacy, and free speech in the digital age. That sounds great.
yeah. We've been. What's my story of the week? And we could do the Nostr stuff. So we've been like adding, so we have Nostr SDK is a dependency in Ellen Bits now, and I've been Nostrifying some extensions so you can get them to look at the bulk card extension. You can freeze your card, and then you can like uncap it if you need to spend some more money or whatever, just over Nostr DMs. But the power of Nostr is really like you can build anything. So you can yeah, you can build bots and stuff. So if you look at something like Telegram, I think the reason that was successful was because it was pretty easy to kind of build bots for and like useful tools for, and you could just chat over them. And so seeing some of that stuff happening on Nostr is making me incredibly. I know this the sort of social media side of it is having like a bit of a something of a user slump more recently. Um, but no, the utility of it of just being able to plug into this thing and then use whatever Nostr client you've got and then DM um your bank card or whatever or whatever like there's a whole bunch of interesting things you can build. So that's probably my story of the week actually on Nostr. Is having Nostr SDK in Ellen Bits and then is exploring that. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
And check out who's already slated to speak at Nostershire at Bitfest UK. Ben Ark. Hey, that's you, Ben.
Look, it was Marty Malmy. We were literally speaking about him in the chat. So someone was saying, "Hey, do you remember that guy who sold all of his Bitcoin to buy a flat in Norway?" And it wasn't Norway, it was Finland, and it was Marty Malmy. And I once had some beers with him, and he said, "I regret selling those Bitcoin." I was like, "Yeah, I bet you do, mate."
Well, yeah, I'd still like to shake his hand and be like, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Because
Second
that's
contributor. Yeah.
one of the first contributors to Satoshi and contributors to the Bitcoin project, Marty Malmy. Be great to see. Crypto Donkey, Dan Gershoni, Oscar Mary, Nathan Day.
Oh man, Oscar
Um,
Mary's dope. I love Oscar Mary.
awesome. So that's Noster. Good guys there. Then at Bitfest, looks like they're going to have Peter Todd,
Satoshi.
maybe Dominic Frisby. Hey, look at that. Mad Bitcoins. All right. Thomas Vogelin from
Oof.
Electrum Wallet, friend of the show. Victoria Jones, of course, friend of the show. Let's see what else we got here. Amin, I like that guy. He's a good dude. So just, yeah, it's going to be a great conference. Veronica's going to be there. Hopefully we get some Dan Eve in here. And look, they're having day 3 Pepe X. Oh, I hope they have Theo. Also, it says here on the pop-up ad you can get an early bird for 99 pounds. I think that's way too cheap. So you guys should go buy this for Bitfest. You want to get a good deal, help out the organizers. Remember, the organizers of these small conferences often lose money on the conference. So it's really good if you guys can buy a ticket, even if you can't go, buy a ticket just to support the conference. But it looked like a bunch of cool guys for the Pepe conference.
Lots of
Oh,
art
they're
going
gonna have
on.
Zed. I know that guy.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to hang with on Cripsy too from Cripsy Art. Good guy. You can still apply to speak. You can apply to exhibit at bitfest.uk. They're gonna have a music after party. Rutzel,
Russell.
DJ
Russell, yeah,
Rutzel is gonna
DJ Russell.
Damn.
DJ.
I've
Hey,
got his
Crypto
helmet. I've got his
Raptor.
helmet. I took it home from
Crypto
Mallorca.
Raptor is going to sing and rap, it says here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like it's just going to be a great conference. So check out
Oh
Bitfest
man.
at bitfest.uk. They've got children's tickets, student tickets, early bird tickets. It's a great time to get your ticket and to support this new conference that we think is going to be a lot of fun in Manchester in November. I think it's going to be cold. Ben says it's not cold till December. So we're right on the line
And
of coldness, and it's the week before Thanksgiving in the US. So it should be great for everybody.
every ticket's a VIP ticket. It's not like these mega huge conferences where you go to and you can't see any of the speakers, right? So all of the speakers you'll be able to bend their ear or lend their ear or however whatever that term is that doesn't physically assault them. But you'll be able to speak to them, and because they'll be milling about the place. So that's the cool thing about like these smaller ones is that they don't have crazy ass VIP rooms where you can't see anyone and they're shrouded in mystery because they do their talk and go away. So you can sort of have a beer with people at the bar, and
We'll have to make sure
that's the
that
idea.
Dan Eve and his Bitcoin flag return to Manchester. The flag waving will never stop with Dan around.
I'll make sure I stay awake for because I think the last time we tried to do a show there, I kind of fell asleep on the front row, and I had to be relegated to the room. But
People
yeah,
will just not stop buying you drinks, Dan.
yeah,
And if they don't buy them for you, just take them anyway.
yeah,
But yeah, it should be a great time, and hope to see you guys all at BitFest.UK. We're still super excited about the great time we had at Majorca Blockchain Days just a couple of weeks ago. It was great to meet lots of new people and see old people from last year. Darren, we met this new guy Q, Thomas from Electrum Wallet was there. A bunch of great people that we hang out with seemingly every year now. So shout out to Majorca Blockchain Days.
yeah.
And I'm still traveling around Europe. After Majorca, I went to Barcelona, and now I'm in Paris. And next week we're going to Amsterdam. So just a little bit more of the European vacation. Then we'll be back on the normal time, back in Las Vegas time, doing the show. So thanks to everybody for joining us, giving us a thumbs up down below. Go ahead and put a comment down below. We always read them, even though there's not that many. And I know you probably missed the chat today because we're on at a weird time, but we miss you guys in the chat too. We hope to see you next week or a few weeks from now on the normal time. So thanks so much for everybody for joining us. Until next time, bye bye.